You know what it looks like when an empire gets cocky. 60,000 troops, full Byzantine might, Asia Minor veterans, Tagmata elites, imperial cavalry. They march into Bulgaria in 917 with one goal: crush Tsar Simeon, force him to kneel, end his dreams of Constantinople. Leo Phocas the Elder commands them, son of Nikephoros Phocas, seasoned, confident. The Byzantines have stabilized their eastern borders after years of Arab wars. They're bringing everything. They think this is the knockout punch. What happens next near the Anchialus River on August 20th, 917, becomes one of the worst disasters in Byzantine military history. 30,000 Bulgarians, outnumbered 2-1, turn the river valley into a killing field. 75 years later, historians still find tens of thousands of Byzantine skeletons scattered across the hills. How does a smaller force annihilate twice its number? What goes wrong when you stop at the wrong river? This is the story of Anchialus. 6. 2025. Byzantine-Bulgarian War of 913 to 927, documented in the Wikipedia entry, updated April 18, 2025, and Leo the Deacon's Historia, which describes the battlefield 75 years after the slaughter. These aren't surface sources. Leo the Deacon wrote decades after the battle, but documented what people still saw on the ground. The Wikipedia entries synthesize primary Byzantine chronicles, including Theophanes, Continuatus, and John Skylitz's, giving us the most complete picture we have. Now back to the information. Recognition. Alexander sees it as humiliation. He stops payment. Simeon sees opportunity. He's been Tsar since 893, educated in Constantinople, fluent Greek. They called him the half-Greek in Byzantine records, studied rhetoric, knows how they think. When Alexander dies the same year, 912, Patriarch Nicholas Mystikos tries damage control, promises that the infant Emperor Constantine VII will marry one of Simeon's daughters. They even meet outside Constantinople's walls. Nicholas crowns Simeon Tsar of the Bulgarians right there. Simeon starts using Basileus on his seals, the Greek title for emperor. But in 914, a plot flips everything. Zoe Karvounopsina, Constantine's mother, seizes power. She cancels the marriage arrangement, rejects Simeon's imperial title. Allies with Serbia and Hungary against him. By 915, 916, both sides are preparing for total war. Empress Zoe wants to end this. She makes peace with the Abbasid Caliphate in June 917. That frees up her eastern armies. She sends diplomats to the Magyars, Pechenegs, and Serbs, offers gold, naval support, a coordinated assault on Bulgaria from multiple sides. Better bribes. The Pechenegs stay neutral. The Magyars are fighting in Western Europe as Frankish allies. The Serbs under Petar Gojnikovic hesitate because Michael of Zahumlja, a Bulgarian ally, warns Simeon about their plans. The Byzantine coalition collapses before it forms. Zoe is forced to fight alone, but she's confident. By 917, Generals John Bogus and Leo Phocas gather reinforcements from Asia Minor. They combine imperial Tagmata units with European thematic troops. The sources say 60,000 men. It's the largest Byzantine field army assembled in years. These aren't raw recruits. These are veterans from the Arab frontier, disciplined, well supplied. The troops are paid in advance to boost morale. They swear an oath on the true cross before marching, vowing to die for each other. His father is Nikephoros Phocas, military dynasty. He's got a reputation. He plans to invade Moesia, link up with Admiral Romanus Lecapenus' fleet on the Black Sea coast, and trap the Bulgarians between two forces. The fleet sails north with orders to transport Pecheneg reinforcements across the Danube. But Romanus and the Pechenegs quarrel. He refuses to ferry them. They raid Bulgarian territory on their own instead. The coordination is already breaking down. Leo Phocas doesn't know this yet. His army marches north from Constantinople. The route takes them along the Black Sea coast toward the fortress of Anchialus, modern Pomorie. 8 kilometers north of Anchialus flows the Anchialus River. Today it's called the Achaloj, shallow, not wide, easy crossing, near the modern village of Achaloi. His empire stretches from Bosnia in the west to the Dnieper River in the east. He can't bring everything. He's sent forces under the General Marmis to guard the Serbian border. Small detachments protect the northern frontier against Pechenegs and Magyars, but he concentrates his main army on the heights around Anchialus, elevated terrain overlooking the river valley. The exact size is unknown. Some sources estimate around 60,000, but others suggest 30,000, based on the forces he has available after splitting his army. Contemporary Byzantine sources don't give Bulgarian numbers. They rarely do for enemy forces. What we know is he's outnumbered. The Byzantines have more troops, better equipment. Recent victories against the Arabs, they expect to win. The Byzantine army approaches the Anchialus River. Leo Phocas intends to cross, push toward Mesembria, modern Nezabar, and link with the fleet. His generals plan to outflank the Bulgarian right wing. cut Simeon's forces off from the Balkan mountain passes, force them into open battle where Byzantine heavy cavalry can dominate. They set up camp near Anchialus. The fortress is strong, defensible, they're confident. Simeon watches from the hills. He's positioned his army in a specific formation, strongest forces on both wings. The center is deliberately weaker, classic double envelopment setup. If the Byzantines push the center back, the wings close in. Simeon himself commands large cavalry reserves hidden behind the hills, mobile strike force, waiting. They see what looks like a straightforward engagement. They start crossing the Anchialus. Infantry in dense phalanx formation, scoutatoy spearmen in hollow squares for mutual protection, cavalry on the flanks. The attack is fierce. Byzantine cavalry charges the Bulgarian center, kills many. The Bulgarian infantry starts to give ground. Slowly at first, then faster. The center can't hold the heights south of the river. They retreat north. The Byzantines think they're winning. Their cavalry presses forward. The infantry follows. Formations start to stretch. Then a rumor spreads through Byzantine ranks. Leo Phocas is dead. Different sources tell it different ways. John Skylitz's, the Byzantine chronicler, says morale was already low. Another account from John Halden's Byzantine Wars mentions Phocas dismounting to drink from a creek. His horse wanders off into the open. To the troops, it looks like their commander fell. They take to their heels. Some Byzantine units try to fight off the cavalry charge. Bulgarian infantry hits them from another angle. Tsar Simeon fights personally. His white horse is killed at the height of battle. The Byzantines are completely routed. The formations disintegrate. What follows is slaughter. The fleeing Byzantines run back toward the river, drownings in the Anchialus, mass killings on the slopes. The Bulgarian cavalry pursues relentlessly. Behind him, the field is covered with bodies. Byzantine historian Leo the Deacon writes 75 years later, around 992, that the battlefield at Anchialus is still covered with tens of thousands of Roman skeletons, piles of bones visible to anyone who passes through. The modern accounts preserved in Leo the Deacon's Historia, though written decades after, describe a scene that became legendary, tens of thousands dead. Some estimates say casualties approach 30,000 to 60,000 men, half the Byzantine army or more. These numbers from chroniclers might be inflated, they often are. But even if the true toll is lower, it's devastating. Field effectiveness is crippled. The planned Pecheneг attack from the north never happens. Leo Phocas returns to Constantinople with the remnants. Several days later, the Bulgarians catch up with Byzantine forces at the village of Katasurtai, right outside Constantinople. Night battle. The Byzantines are routed again. The last organized units are destroyed. The path to Constantinople is open, but Simeon doesn't assault the walls. Not yet. He's taken heavy casualties too. His army is exhausted. Instead, he leverages the victory. The Byzantines propose a new peace treaty. Simeon enters the imperial city. He's crowned for a second time, Tsar of all Bulgarians and Romans. The title is recognized. He demands his daughter marry Constantine VII. Zoe refuses. She allies with Serbia and Hungary. Confines her to the monastery of St. Euphemia in Petrium. Romanus takes power. The Serbian alliance gives Byzantium time to recover. Simeon, weakened by his own losses, sends an army under generals Marmais and Theodore Sigritza to deal with the Serbs. They capture the Serbian prince, but it delays the final assault on Constantinople. Simeon never takes the city. He doesn't have enough forces to fight on multiple fronts. The Serbs, the Byzantines, the logistics. The war drags on until 927 when Simeon dies. His successor, Peter I, makes peace, marries Maria Lecapain, granddaughter of Emperor Romanus I, gets annual tribute, recognition of the imperial title, autocephaly for the Bulgarian Church, 40 years of peace follow. It's the worst Byzantine defeat since Manzikert won't happen for another 154 years. It establishes Bulgaria as the dominant Balkan power. The consequences ripple through the 10th century. Let's look at why it happens. Not the mythology, the mechanics. He's operating on outdated information. He assumes reinforcements will arrive. They don't. Second, tactical overconfidence. The Byzantines have just stabilized the eastern frontier. They've been winning against Arabs. They assume Bulgarian tactics are predictable. They're wrong. Simeon spent years in Constantinople. He studied their methods. He knows how they fight. He used their doctrine against them. The double envelopment is textbook. The feigned retreat draws them in. The hidden cavalry delivers the decisive blow. When the rumor spreads that Leo Phocas is dead, discipline evaporates. Byzantine units are regimental. They're organized by themes and tagmata. When command structure breaks, they don't hold. Bulgarian forces under Simeon have national unity, centralized command. They're fighting for their Tsar. The cohesion difference is massive. Capture Mesembria. Follow them to Katasurtai. They maximize the damage. Byzantine losses aren't just from the battle, they're from the collapse that follows, the drownings, the exhaustion. the night attack days later. The sheer number visible decades later confirms catastrophic losses. This isn't a close fight, it's annihilation. Archaeological work near modern Pomorier and the Anchialus River has found mass grave sites, medieval weapon fragments. The location matches the chronicles. Penetrates deep into Byzantine Greece, reaches the Isthmus of Corinth in 917. The theme of Hellas falls under his influence. Dyrrhachium and the Adriatic coast face Bulgarian pressure. Serbia becomes a Bulgarian province after 917. The Jupans, Serbian nobles, are summoned to pay homage, then arrested, taken to Preslav. The Serbian state collapses. Chaslav, a Bulgarian candidate, is installed. The expansion reaches Croatia in the west, the Dnieper in the east. He dies without conquering Constantinople. His son Peter inherits a powerful but exhausted state. The peace treaty of 927 recognizes Bulgarian strength, but also marks the limit of expansion. Nikephoros Phocas II, his descendant, becomes emperor in 963. But in 917, the disaster exposes vulnerabilities in the regency under Zoe. Romanus Lecapenus uses the chaos to seize power. He becomes co-emperor with Constantine VII. The military establishment is shaken. The tagmata and thematic armies are rebuilt, but trust in Byzantine invincibility is broken. The battle also demonstrates the effectiveness of steppe-derived tactics in Balkan terrain. Simeon's forces use horse archers, mobile infantry, feigned retreats, envelopment maneuvers. These are adaptations from Bulgar origins, mixed with Slavic levies and Thracian subjects. The emphasis is on mobility and terrain exploitation. Byzantine heavy cavalry and infantry phalanx work in open Anatolian plains. In riverine valleys with hills, they're vulnerable. Simeon understands this. His strategic acumen comes from his education. He knows Roman military treatises. He's read the Strategicon. He applies theory with discipline. Leo the Deacon, though writing 75 years after, treats it as a cautionary tale. Even Nicholas Mystikos, the patriarch, writes letters to Simeon referencing the battle. He acknowledges Byzantine aggression, pleads for Christian mercy. The letters survive. They show how deeply the defeat affects Byzantine leadership. 30,000 Bulgarians, though some sources suggest the Bulgarian force might have been closer to 60,000 if we count all available troops. The title uses 30,000 based on estimates of Simeon's main force after splitting his army to guard multiple borders. Either way, the Byzantines have at least parity or numerical advantage. They have better logistics. Supply lines from Constantinople. Naval support, theoretically. Payment in advance, yet they lose catastrophically. Why? Because numbers aren't everything. Position matters, command matters, timing matters. Simeon has all three. Simeon's cavalry hits it from the flank and rear. The classic hammer and anvil. The infantry holds the Byzantine front. The cavalry crushes the flank. The encirclement is fast. The Byzantines can't reorganize. Units break individually, then collectively. The mass psychology of defeat takes over. The bridge or ford, whatever crossing they used, becomes a death trap. Bodies pile up. The Bulgarian pursuit is relentless. They're not taking prisoners. They're eliminating the threat. By nightfall, the Byzantine field army is destroyed. The losses include elite units, the tagmata, imperial guards, thematic troops from Asia Minor, hardened by Arab wars, all gone. The speed of the collapse shocks Constantinople. News arrives within days. Panic spreads. Defenses are reinforced. But the city knows. The army that was supposed to crush Bulgaria is gone. Romanus Lecapenus understands this when he takes power. He's pragmatic. The coronation of Simeon in Constantinople, twice, is humiliating. But it's survival. The marriage rejection by Zoe earlier is what triggers this whole war. Had she honored the engagement, 917 might not happen. But she underestimates Simeon, sees him as a barbarian. He's not. He's educated, tactical, patient, and now he's proven he can destroy Byzantine armies. The battlefield preservation is remarkable. 75 years later, Leo the Deacon writes about bones still visible. In medieval warfare, battlefields often become known sites. Locals avoid them. Travelers remark on them. The quantity of remains indicates scale. Tens of thousands. Even accounting for exaggeration, we're looking at massive casualties. Modern battlefield archaeology in the region has limitations. Pomorier and the Anchialus area have been built over, but medieval weapon finds, burial pits, and soil composition studies around Anchialus confirm large-scale conflict. The dates align, the location matches. Or Manzikert in 1071, when Seljuk Turks crushed Byzantines and captured Emperor Romanos IV. Anchialus fits this pattern. A major Byzantine army, a decisive defeat, strategic consequences. The difference is context. Adrianople is late Roman Empire in crisis. Manzikert is Byzantium losing Anatolia. Anchialus is Middle Byzantine period. The empire is still strong, eastern frontier is stable. They just ended Arab pressure. This should be a victory. Instead, it's catastrophe. The Bulgarian church becomes autocephalous, first new patriarchate outside the Pentarchy. Bulgarian culture dominates the Slavic world. Trade expands. Simeon's court in Preslav rivals Constantinople in sophistication. But it's built on military success. Anchialus is the foundation. That's half to total destruction. Even conservative numbers, say 20,000 dead, cripple the army. These aren't replaceable quickly. Training, equipment, experience, gone. The Bulgarian losses are significant too. Simeon's casualties aren't recorded precisely, but chronicles mention he took heavy losses, enough that he can't immediately exploit the victory. He needs to secure his rear, deal with Serbs, rebuild. This suggests thousands of Bulgarian dead as well. The battle costs both sides heavily, but Byzantium loses more because they lose strategically. If the army doesn't believe in its general, discipline is fragile. When crisis hits, it breaks. Leo Phocas survives, but his career is over. The failed rebellion in 919 shows he's desperate to restore reputation. He doesn't. His family recovers eventually, but he's remembered for Anchialus, for losing. Supposed to transport Pechenegs, refuses. Why? Some sources say he quarrels with them over terms. Others suggest he's already positioning for his own power move. He becomes emperor in 920. Did he deliberately sabotage the campaign? Possibly. Byzantine politics are ruthless. If Leo Phocas fails, Romanus benefits. He takes power in the chaos. Whether intentional or not, the fleet's failure to coordinate is decisive. Without northern pressure on Bulgaria, Simeon concentrates all forces on one front. If Pechenegs attack from the north, while Byzantines push from the south, Simeon faces a two-front war. He might lose. The coordination collapse gives him victory. You're exposed during the crossing. If attacked mid-crossing, you're finished. The Byzantines cross successfully initially, but when they pursue the retreating Bulgarians and then get hit by the counterattack, the river becomes a trap. Retreat means crossing back under fire. Many drown. The river that was easy to cross forward is deadly going back. Terrain always matters. Simeon chooses this ground deliberately. He knows the approaches. He's fought in Thrace before. He uses the land. The cavalry reserves wait for the signal. When Simeon attacks, they respond instantly. That level of control indicates training. Bulgarian forces under Simeon aren't tribal rabble. They're organized, professional. The centralization of his rule since 893 has built a cohesive military. Different loyalties, different pay structures. When the commander is rumored dead, units don't rally around a secondary leader. They fragment. Each theme looks to its own strategos. The tagmata look to their officers. No unified response. That's structural weakness. Rome built legionary loyalty. Byzantium inherits it, but dilutes it with thematic system. In crisis, it shows Simeon's forces have one leader, one command structure, one loyalty. Advantage Bulgaria. But that's the Second Bulgarian Empire in decline. Simeon's Bulgaria is at peak. Anchialus proves it. Bad luck with the rumor about Leo Phocas. Everything aligns against Byzantium. One day, August 20th, 917, everything falls apart. But it works. Bulgarian prestige skyrockets. Byzantine prestige craters. Simeon uses the title for the rest of his reign, 10 more years, until 927. When he dies, Peter inherits a kingdom at its zenith. But Peter isn't Simeon. The decline begins after 927. Still, those 10 years from 917 to 927 are Bulgaria's peak, all built on Anchialus. Simeon wants a dynastic marriage to legitimize his imperial claim. If his daughter marries Constantine VII, their children are heirs to both empires. It's unification by marriage, Rome and Bulgaria. Simeon as grandfather to future emperors. Zoe sees this. She refuses. She wants Bulgaria contained, not integrated. The refusal is strategic, but it backfires. It provokes war. War leads to Anchialus. Anchialus forces her from power. Romanus Lecapenus takes over. Eventually, Peter gets his marriage. Maria Lecapene. But it's too late for Simeon. He's old, sick, dies 2 years after the peace. The marriage his father wanted happens. But Simeon never sees it. Petar Gojnikovic, the Serbian prince, is allied with Byzantium. Simeon sends Marmace and Theodore Sigritsa with an army. They devastate Serbia, capture the prince, annex the territory, install Chaslav, a Bulgarian loyalist. It's brutal, effective, but it costs time. Byzantines use that time to rebuild, reinforce Constantinople. When Simeon finally moves again, the opportunity is gone. Walls are too strong. Garrison is ready. He besieges multiple times, never breaks through. The Serbian campaign secures his rear but loses him the war. The war from 913 to 927 drains both empires. Anchialus is the peak moment. The rest is attrition. In the 10th century, battlefield cleanup isn't systematic. Bodies are left, animals scatter them, bones weather. But the sheer quantity means, even after decades, even after scavengers and elements, there's still evidence. Modern archaeologists wish they could excavate systematically. Urban development limits it. But what's been found confirms the scale. All involve overconfident Byzantine armies. All involve underestimated enemies. All involve tactical superiority of the enemy on the day. The pattern repeats. Byzantine military doctrine is strong, but it's rigid. When enemies adapt, Goths, Seljuks, Bulgarians, and exploit Byzantine assumptions, the results are catastrophic. Simeon adapts. He knows Byzantine methods. He turns them against the empire, the double envelopment, the feigned retreat, the hidden reserves. These aren't innovative tactics. They're classical, but they're executed perfectly. No reinforcements, just chaos. The river that was an obstacle to advance becomes a barrier to retreat. The trap closes, 60,000 men. The pride of Byzantium, destroyed in hours. The balance of power shifts. It doesn't shift back until the mid-10th century. By then, Simeon is dead. Bulgaria is weaker. But for those years after 917, Bulgaria is the superpower. Byzantium is reactive, defensive, diminished. One leader stays and fights, the other runs. Byzantine soldiers notice, even if Phocas's escape is tactical, preserving command structure, it looks like cowardice. Morale collapses aren't just about tactics, they're about belief. If the soldiers don't believe the general will die with them, they don't fight to the death. They run first. Simeon's horse dies. He keeps fighting. That's leadership. That's why Bulgaria wins. The political consequences in Constantinople are severe. Zoe loses power. Romanus Lecapenus rises. He's not from the traditional aristocracy. He's military, naval commander. He uses Anchialus as proof that the old regime failed, offers stability, competence, gets crowned co-emperor with Constantine VII in 920. Effectively rules. Constantine is sidelined. Romanus negotiates the eventual peace with Simeon. He understands power. The disaster at Anchialus enables his coup. Blood and bones at the Anchialus River put Romanus on the throne. 922. Bulgarian assault on Constantinople walls. 927. Simeon dies. Peter negotiates peace. 10 years from Anchialus to treaty. Bulgaria is ascendant the entire time. Byzantium is scrambling. Don't overextend. Don't assume enemy weakness. Don't let rumors break command structure. These lessons are written down. Future generals read them. Anchialus becomes the cautionary example. Cultural flowering follows military success. Byzantine chroniclers, meanwhile, obsess over the defeat. They write and rewrite it, trying to explain, trying to understand. How did this happen? The trauma runs deep. A sword here, a spearhead there, mass graves detected through ground-penetrating radar, but not excavated. Medieval pottery, coins from the period, enough to confirm the location, not enough to reconstruct the battle minute by minute. The chronicles remain our best source, and they're consistent. Big battle, big defeat, big consequences. Casualties in the tens of thousands. Half the Byzantine army or worse. These aren't small skirmishes. This is industrial-scale slaughter. Medieval warfare at this level is rare. Most battles are smaller, a few thousand per side. Anchialus is massive. The logistics alone, feeding, moving, coordinating 60,000 troops, are enormous. Byzantine supply lines stretch from Constantinople. Hundreds of kilometers, ships, wagons, depots. When the army is destroyed, all that infrastructure collapses. The economic cost is staggering. Years of revenue, wasted in one day. The social fabric tears. Byzantium recovers. It always does. But recovery takes years, a generation. The empire is resilient, but not invincible. Anchialus proves it. He positions perfectly. He times the counterattack. He exploits the moment. It's mastery. The Byzantines train their own enemy, send him to their best schools, teach him rhetoric and strategy. Then he uses it against them. Ironic, deadly. He's describing what travelers see, what locals know. The field at Anchialus where the Romans fell. It's a scar on the landscape, a memory in bone. By the 11th century, the bones are probably gone, weathered, buried, built over. But for 3/4 of a century, they're a monument to hubris, to tactical brilliance, to the day 30,000 Bulgarians destroyed 60,000 Byzantines. The Byzantine preparations for 917 are meticulous. After stabilizing the eastern frontier, the empire redirects resources. The tagmata, professional troops near Constantinople, are mobilized, elite cavalry and infantry. Then come thematic armies from Thrace, Macedonia, and Asia Minor, veterans who fought Arabs. The gathering point is Constantinople, feeding 60,000 men, paying them in advance. The Byzantine state spends heavily. The fleet under Romanus Lecapenus sails north. The plan is coordinated invasion, land forces from the south, naval forces transport Pechenegs from the north, crush Bulgaria between two armies. But Romanus is supposed to ferry Pecheneg warriors across the Danube. Something breaks down. Accounts vary. Some say they argue. Others suggest Romanus plans his political move. The Pechenegs don't cross with Byzantine support. They raid independently. The northern pincer fails before Leo Phocas engages. But it assumes coordination that doesn't exist. Simeon's intelligence network is effective. Michael of Zahumlia warns him about Serbian plans. Simeon knows the Byzantine plan before it unfolds. He knows the Pechenegs aren't coming. He concentrates everything on Leo Phocas. Cavalry reserves behind the hills, hidden. Byzantine scouts see Bulgarian forces, but not the full setup. The weak center is bait. But Simeon studied Byzantine tactics in Constantinople. Pressing, the generals see success, push harder. Whatever the trigger, panic spreads. Attacked from the flank, Bulgarian cavalry smashes through. Bodies float downstream. Bulgarians exploit this, target officers. By mid-afternoon, the Byzantine army is shattered. Capital is shocked. The army is gone. Days later, Bulgarians catch up. Village of Katasertai, outside Constantinople. They attack at night. Byzantines routed again. Last organized units destroyed. Path to Constantinople open. But Simeon doesn't assault. His army has suffered. He negotiates. Simeon agrees. But he has demands. Recognition of his imperial title. Entry into Constantinople. Coronation. Byzantines agree. Simeon enters the city. Patriarch crowns him Tsar of all Bulgarians and Romans. Through force, what he wanted since 913. But August 918, Romanus Lecapenus makes his move. Engineers a coup, removes Zoe, takes control. Eventually co-emperor. Romanus is pragmatic. Bulgaria is dominant. Better to negotiate. Theodosian walls too strong. Lays siege multiple times. Never succeeds. War drags until 927. The dynastic marriage Simeon wanted. But Simeon is dead. 40 years of peace follow. Bulgaria past its peak. These lessons shape Byzantine military doctrine for generations. 60,000 march in. Maybe 20,000 march out. The rest stay forever.